So even like when we had sit-ins, Act Up Montreal would do sit-ins. We'd go with all of our lesbian friends to gay bars where the girls weren't allowed, and we'd sit at the bar until the police came. And I said, "Girl, this is Martin Luther King all over again, girl." Like it was so great, and it just unified us so wonderfully. Like even though, I mean, nobody likes getting arrested and shoved around and you know, like abused and you know, being the subject of so much hatred, but it unified us and like nothing else would. I mean, wow. Every time I think about it, it's just a good feeling comes up inside of me. You know what I mean?
When we when they were doing parades at that time, like they were really small and they were really horrible and they were really misogynist and racist and didn't want drag queens, didn't want Leatherman, you know, didn't want this, didn't want that. I was like, oh, well, why bother? Like, what? I'm gonna go and watch like corporate closeted gay men march? It's not gonna happen.
You know, the gay bookstore, the feminist bookstore, they were still almost like, I remember the first time I went into them, like I was kind of freaked out. I was like, oh my God, is anybody looking? You know, I was very young. So they would send books out. People would order books, they'd send them in brown paper packages.
Imagine that. But, you know, like I come from a time that if you were gay and out, you were a hairdresser, you were a waiter, you were in FUD, you were, you know, service industry only, thank you very much. We couldn't possibly take you seriously on the golf course with our wives in corporate thing. Not that that's the end all and be all of like queer life, but it wasn't even an option for us.
So yeah, back then, having the means to create your own images and create counter narratives to what the dominant narrative was vitally important. And that's why I started making films. Because I never saw images of, and it's still the case today, right? People don't usually see, marginalized people don't usually see images of themselves in the media until recently that aren't negative, hateful, ignorant. That's the world I grew up in. So it's very white, hetero patriarchy.
Because when I came into Montreal, I was like a tour de force. I had my Daisy Duke shorts and my halter top and my pink triangle shaped head and my platform shoes.
And I carried around a Felix the cat. Because one of the characters in Brideshead Revisited, one of the queer characters, has a teddy bear. So I didn't want to like copy conform, so I had Felix the cat.
But I just think that it's really important to know who you are, why you are, and where you are in this world. And if you can answer those questions confidently, that alone will set you up for success. So you can walk into any room and not let anyone make you feel like you're an imposter or less than.
It was, for me, it's quite remarkable. I like the openness in terms of people defining their genders that is going on now. I would have appreciated that when I was young. I think I would have been a part of that, you know, when I was like 17.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There was, you know, I mean, we were so naive about so many things.
I remember finding out about Jo Rose being murdered for having pink hair and being on the bus, you know, attacked, beaten to death by a group of young men. So that was the context, like that was just a few years earlier.
Yeah.
That was my coming out experience. My girlfriend was friends with Jo and we would go to bars together, and then it was just insane to think, oh, one night he went that way and everybody else went the other way, and that was it. So yes, gay bashings happened. Hysteria around AIDS was massive. So any kind of queer sexuality people thought was dangerous, lethal, abhorrent, disgusting, because there was such fear about the spread of AIDS and there was such ignorance. So it was not safe to be queer, and it was not safe to be subversively queer back then.